Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Naruto video. This one's going to be my look at, review, kind of a bit of a how to play for the brand new Naruto Boruto card game that's just recently come out. So what I have here is one of the two sets that is available. This game currently only has two products. There is basically two starter sets. There is this one, which is the Naruto and Naruto Shippuden set, and the other one is the Naruto Shippuden and Boruto set. So I actually have the Boruto one ordered, but for some reason it hasn't arrived yet. I don't know, but either way, we're talking about this one here. I think it's a good idea. This set gives a good impression about what the game is. Now noticeably, it's a card game, not a trading card game. There's no booster packs for this, it is just a card game system. The cards here are all the cards that there are, basically. If you get both of the starter sets, basically you have every card in the game. So it's only meant to be you buy one or both of these products and then you have everything. So let's take a look at the packaging here. Let's do an opening, what do you get? And then we'll talk about like rules and stuff like that. So pretty interesting here. You get this nice kind of card bit on the front. It's kind of all shiny and so on. It's pretty nice. You can see this sort of effect on it. And you can see here it also has the advertising special edition, and you get two tournament packs in it. Now, that's kind of misleading in terms of like tournament packs. Like, I don't know how much of a organized play this game has or anything like that, but you do get two of those packs, and I'll show you what they are when we go inside. So yeah, front of the box is just the same, just doesn't have the advertising bit there. Bottom of the box, as you can see here, just basically tells you what's in each deck. So you have deck 1 here, which is the Naruto Part 1 deck. Deck 2 is the Naruto Shippuden deck. And then it just has a bunch of different languages telling you what the contents are inside. So you get two full decks plus some sideboard cards, basically, because they give you 3 copies of every card. But the deck is, you play a 50 card deck, so there's obviously some left over. And then you also actually have an extra deck here, which is quite interesting in terms of the mechanics of this game. But anyway, that's pretty much all there is to say about the back and sides of the box and so on. It is, as you can see here, it says it takes about 30 minutes or so to play a game. And then it's 2 to 4 players. So that is interesting. You can actually play, 4-player match if you want. But anyway, let's come inside here and just take off the box. I think it's a pretty nice box considering what it is. It's one of those kind of games where, you're kind of keeping it as it is because you're not doing a ton of like deck building as such. So I like the boxes to just store the game in. But anyway, so what we have here is you get a bunch of different rules manuals in different languages. The reason for that is because, as you'll see there, you can sort of get a sense there for what the cards look like. There's, apart from the name of the character, there's no like text on the cards. It's all done through symbols and the graphics, basically. So it means that they only basically have to make one version of this game and just include a bunch of different rules manuals. So that's pretty interesting. So yeah, there's English. You do get 2 boards, basically, to just kind of paper boards with the field on them. So you can see here, battlefield, extra deck, guardian stack, discard pile deck, quest points. There's the kind of chronometer, because it's the Chrono Clash system here. Here's your other one here. So that one was the forest area. Here's the hidden leaf village one. Exact same, just different picture. And then, yeah, here's all the other different language rules. As you can see here, you get all of them. So in terms of production-wise, that makes the game, I suppose, fairly easy for them to make, given that they don't have to print the cards in different languages, basically. Because the only text on the cards is like the copyright stuff on the bottom, and then the fact that it says cost and strength. But I suppose through the visuals of the game, they can get that across. So they just printed it in English for basically all of the regions. And yeah, this is what you get when you come inside here. Once you get rid of all the paper, you're left with the cards. So obviously you've got your big cards here, which are your extra deck cards. They're the sort of special big cards that are your most powerful stuff, and then your space for your 2 decks and all the other cards. So they do give you the 2 tournament packs here, and I'll show you them here. Now, the tournament packs, they say they're packs, but it's basically just individual cards, but they are the only like hollow cards that you get in the entire game. So you can see here, this one is actually, this card isn't featured in either of these 2 decks, the Part 1 set. I think what this is from is the Shippuden Deck from the Boruto set, but there's Sasuke Susanoo. And then also this one, which you'll see in the deck, you get a hollow version of Hiruko. Now, as far as I'm aware, the tournament packs can basically have any card from the game, standard size card from the game, in hollow. That's it. That's all the tournament packs actually are. They're just foil versions of those cards. You do get your sort of Chrono Clash system here, which is basically part of how the game works. You just kind of join the cards up, and you have a card-based version of the chrono system here, the time basically. And again, for a basic idea of how the game plays, the marker is set in the middle on the 0 mark. As you play cards, you basically put the timer into your opponent's zone, and then on your opponent's turn they have more time or cost basically to use. So they can use all their cost up to 0 and play their extra card to put it into your opponent's zone, and that's basically how the game goes back and forth. The power of your card swings it into your opponent's zone, and then it swings back, and that's the idea of how the game plays. And then on the back of each of these cards you get the game icons to give you an idea of how it plays, because of course there's no text on the cards, there's no written stuff to tell you how the game actually plays in that way. So yeah, let's get into the decks here. So let's take a closer look at some of the cards. So I already showed you this, but these are the kind of Chronometer cards. You can see here it's got 0 to 10, and when you put them together the right way, it's got the 0 to 10 on both ends. And this is just how the game goes back and forth on cost to actually summon and play your cards. On the other side, it tells you all the symbols for the different effects, because this game doesn't actually feature any text on the cards to describe what they do. It's only symbols. So this game either requires a lot of remembering what every symbol does or referring to the instruction manual a lot. We'll take another quick look at our 2 tournament cards, which are pretty cool. I think the shininess of them comes across pretty well. And again, the only other unique thing about them is that you can see here, it actually kind of prioritizes the art above the sort of layout of the card. So you can see Hiruko here doesn't actually feature like his effect box. It's just the 2 symbols there as the only thing blocking the art. And then similarly, Sasuke's Susanoo here, you can see he's sort of standing in front of the kind of layout, but it still allows the symbols to go forward. So there's a sort of extra deluxe aspect to some of those tournament cards where the art comes across a bit better. We'll quickly go over, these are the extra cards that you get, because you play a 50 card deck, they give you 54 cards for each deck. These are just the extras to make it up so that every single card that you get 3 copies of, so you can play if you want. And these are just here, 4 for each deck. They take out some of the higher cost cards, and if you want to, you can alter your deck. So maybe you want to play higher cost cards, so you take out some of the lower cost ones, put in some of the higher cost ones to make your deck more powerful. Depends on what you want to do, because of course, if you really wanted to, the idea of this is that just with this set, for instance, you're only allowed to play 2 colors in your deck, whereas what you get here, so you get a purple red deck, and then you get a blue green deck. So you can switch it around where like, oh, I want to play blue red, so you just kind of swap half the decks out with each other, and you can also use the sideboards as well, but it has to be 50 cards. So yeah, let's get into how do you read a card. So here is Toby. As you can see here, he is a 6 cost character, and he has 2 strength, as you can see here down the corner, and the cost is up in the top corner. So that's a relatively high cost. It's sort of just above the sort of middle point of the costs. Very low strength, so his effect must do something fairly good. Now he actually has 2 abilities, as you can see here. One is his main line of text here, and then the second one is this Guardian ability text. So the way this works is that the Guardian ability thing isn't on every single card. Similarly, there's also some battlers that are literally just a strength value for a cost and they don't have any effect. Some cards have an effect but no Guardian symbol, and I think there's one or two cards that might have a Guardian ability but no normal ability. But this guy has two. They're actually both the same if you look at them. The four symbols that appear on the summon effect as well as the Guardian effect are the same. So it's just about interpreting what does those combination of four symbols do. What is that effect? So how you read it is, first of all, you read what the green arrow does here. So you can see here it has a arrow pointing up. This means when you summon this card to the field, it has an effect. And that's when you activate the four symbols. So the first symbol is a big capital B with the word your underneath it. What that means is target one of your battlers. And what a battler is in this game is just a card that has a strength cost, because there are some cards that are just like one-off effects. They don't have a strength, so they're not considered a battler. So it's just referring to a card that has a strength. So on summon, target one of your battlers. Then the second symbol there is your discard pile. That's what that symbol means. The third symbol is an arrow pointing down. That means return that card to your hand. And then the final symbol, the +1 EX, means draw one of your extra deck cards. That means draw one of the big cards into your hand. That's how it's only by using that sort of an effect, a card that has that symbol, that's the only way to get these big cards into your hand so that you can use them. So, how do you put those things together? Target your battler, discard pile, return card to hand, and then draw an extra deck card. What it's trying to say in a sort of roundabout way is this. When you summon Toby to the field, target a battler that is in your discard pile, return that to hand. So you get back a battler from your discard pile. That's actually a pretty good effect. And then I think the thing that means that's why it's so kind of high costed is that getting a extra deck card to your hand is actually very valuable. So that's pretty cool. And then it has the same ability if this thing is targeted as a guardian. So if this is one of the face down cards that is your health and it's attacked, its effect goes off when it gets attacked, if it happens to be the card that gets attacked. So that's what Toby does. Let's use Gaara as the next example here. So he is, as you can see here, 7 cost, 7 strength, so that's pretty good. No Guardian ability down the bottom, but he does have a main effect, but it's a different type of main effect. His green arrow has a punch, a fist symbol on it. That means when he attacks. So when Gaara attacks, target one of your battlers, explosion symbol, target one of your battlers, turn card upright symbol. Now what this is basically saying is this. When this card attacks, target one of your battlers and destroy it. Then target one of your other battlers and untap it. So when you attack, you obviously tap it. It's basically saying you attack with this guy, blow up one of your other cards to untap one of your other cards as well. So you do have to have a few different cards in the field here to make this work, and you have to think a little bit about how to get the most value out of it. But, you know, those type of effects where you untap cards are always kind of pretty cool in terms of playing it. Next up, we'll focus on Kabuto Yakushi. 1 cost, so very cheap. He has an unsummon effect, and he has 3 strength. So that's actually pretty good, you know. 1 cost, 3 strength, that's quite good. So on summon, draw an extra deck card. Really, really good already. Just you can play this on turn 1 without giving your opponent too much value. But he does have 2 other symbols. It has chosen player +1 guardian symbol. Now what that means is, that means your opponent. So your chosen opponent, because you can play this 2 to 4 player, but if you're just playing 2 player, the idea is that that's basically saying your opponent gets an extra guardian defender. And you start the game with 5 guardian defenders, that's your health points basically. This gives your opponent an extra health point. So it's the sort of the value of being able to get an extra deck cards for such a cheap cost in exchange for your opponent having 1 extra health. It's actually ultimately a cost I think you are willing to pay. Here's Granny Chio, 3 cost for 2 strength, and she has the reinforcement flag symbol. What this means is that whenever she gets destroyed, you can, from your hand, immediately summon a a battler or an extra deck battler from your hand that has the cost that this card has or less. So a 3 or less comes straight to the field. So it just sort of replaces itself. And then Guardian ability here is you draw an extra deck card. So that's really, really good, the different abilities there. Here's Sakura, and you can see here, red card, but white outline and no strength. So she's our first non-battler card that we've ever seen. She costs 1 cost, and obviously this is, you just play it, goes straight to the discard pile, but its effect here is this. Be chosen. So chosen battler, that means anywhere on the field. That can be one of yours or one of your opponents, but with this effect it will be one of your opponents. So chosen battler with less than or equal to 3 strength, blow up or destroy. So it's just 1 cost to destroy a battler with less than 3. That's pretty good. And the reason it's choose your or your opponents is that, like, you might want to actually just blow up your, Granny Chio. She might be on the field, you play this, you blow up your Granny Chio, you get maybe a 3 cost extra deck or a more important 3 cost onto the field for free. That is pretty cool combo type stuff you can do. And its Guardian ability is the exact same. You also get to blow up a 3 or lower card. So that's pretty cool. Yamato is actually, in this entire set out of all the cards, Sakura and Yamato are the only 2 non-battler cards. So it just feels like they barely put any effort into like choosing these cards. So we'll get into in a second what I really feel about the way some of this kind of system works. But 3 cost Yamato is, so draw an extra deck card, then target one of your battlers, add it to your hand, then return the target to its owner's hand. So it's, what this is saying is draw an extra deck card and then take one of your battlers from the field back into your hand, and then your opponent has to do the same. That's basically the way you'd use it, because why would you ever want to do it where you just take up 2 of your own cards? So it's the idea of you get one of your cards off the field to get one of your opponent's cards off the field, but it's not permanent. And then its Guardian ability is probably the better version of its effect, where it's just choose one of your opponent's cards and they have to put it back into their hand. So that's that. And there's other abilities, that do a variety of different things. The symbols are, there's actually loads of symbols. You'll be referring to the instruction manual a lot. Let's quickly go over the extra deck cards and how they work. So they're obviously separate at the start of the game, and again in the game setup I'll go through this in a little bit more detail. But as you can see here, it's got a cost. So this is Katsuyu is 7 cost and 6 strength. And you can see it has 2 lines of symbols. The top line is basically just stuff that's inherent to it. It always has that regardless of whatever happens. The second row is obviously the bit that has the on summon symbol. That means on summon, chosen battler with less than 5 strength gets destroyed. So it's a more powerful version of Sakura, and it sort of is fitting because it's obviously Sakura summons Katsuyu. And then the top 2 symbols mean, the foot means it basically has haste from Magic the Gathering. It means it can attack immediately when you summon it to the field, whereas every other battler you can't attack immediately unless it has that symbol. The second symbol is probably one of the more powerful kind of things in the game, and that is the +1 ability to attack your Guardian Shield. Now, what that means is, usually the way the game works is that you can either choose to attack one of your opponent's battlers, which is tapped, or you attack their Guardian Shield pile, which is their health. This means if you attack their health, you attack twice. So you check if you defeat the first defender, and if you do, you can choose to fight another one. So that can potentially take out 2 health if you want. I'll quickly show you the most powerful one of these cards, which is the Nine-Tailed Fox. Yeah, here. So you can see here, Nine-Tailed Fox, 9 cost, 10 strength. It has +2 Guardian attack. That means it can potentially take out 3 of your opponent's health. And you only start with 5, so this is a huge card if you summon it. It also has the sort of haste, it can attack immediately when you get it onto the field. And then on summon, chosen battler, any battler across the field, gets +10 strength. And that includes itself, I believe. So you can actually have this be a 20 strength attacker, which basically means you are almost guaranteed to hit your opponent for 3 health, which is just an insane swing in the game. I think there's only a few Guardian abilities that a few cards have that would go off that would really help you that much. That would be stuff like, I suppose, Yamato's effect of just being able to put something back into your opponent's hand. Actually, Haku's Guardian ability is a good example of that. This could actually end a turn correctly. So its Guardian ability is just +2 onto the Chronometer. What that means is that it swings the along the track +2. So if you're player 1, basically the way your turn ends is that if you summon a card with a cost and it hits the +1 on your opponent's side, your turn immediately ends. So Haku's ability, if your opponent, say, stopped here to do all their attacks, and they got that ability, +2, your turn just straight away ends because of that chrono kind of meter. There's not too many cards that affect the chronometer back and forth, but that is one of them, and it's a way to end your turn like that. So I think that's a good look at just an idea about the abilities on cards. As you can see here, they're all characters. So here's the part 1 deck, as you can see here. Gaara, Rock Lee, Hinata, Zabuza, Choji, Tenten, Kiba. It's just a mix of like the first couple of arcs, you know, like tuning exams and stuff like that. Zabuza's there, so nothing too fancy, but you do have, you know, Gaara here as well. Kakashi is your most powerful card here, and so on. This part 1 deck, as you can see, doesn't actually feature any cards that aren't battlers, so that's pretty interesting. And then taking a closer look to the Shippuden deck, you can see here Kakuzu, Orochimaru, Tsunade. So you got some of the Akatsuki members here, as well as a lot of the kind of Team 7. So Sai is part of the team, but you do get Sasuke and Orochimaru as well. Hidan, Might Guy. You can see it's a pretty nice selection. It's early Shippuden. I think the Boruto deck has later Shippuden, and then of course like early Boruto stuff. But that's basically the way the cards work. Now, before we get into the gameplay and how you play it, I do want to give just some thoughts here about my thoughts on just the sort of design of the cards, the system, and how it fits the sort of theme of Naruto. Because that's probably my biggest criticism with this game, is just that I don't like that the battlers and the non-battler cards are just characters. I really don't like that in a game. That you're basically trying to say, they're all ninjas, they can all fight, but certain ninjas in this game can't fight and only get a one-off effect. And especially when your 2 examples of that from this set are Sakura and Yamato, who are both amazing fighters, I think it's really frustrating to see that. Because so many other card games, I think, do the theming so much better. Let's use a Dragon Ball Super card game as an example. So it's another anime card game. How does it work, its system? So you choose a leader for your deck in the Dragon Ball Super card game. So here's Son Goku. And then you build your deck, which also features like other characters as well as non-character cards. The difference is, though, that your leader is still a special character card because it's double-sided. This is a card with power that can never be like discarded from the game. You lose health by having this character lose battles, and eventually, when effects go off, you can switch to its better form, and it's more powerful. It's harder to defeat, and you can still attack with this. It works the same way as any other sort of battler card in its game, but it has all these effects, and it can be the center point of your deck. But then you also have other cards that are just kind of moments from the show. It's not that like this isn't like an Android card, it's Restore the Universes. This card isn't like Piccolo, it's a Fount of Spirit, and it has an effect based off, that's sort of thematic, to that moment from the show itself. And even then, a lot of the other characters are like specifically like Son Goku, feat Kamehameha, or something like that. Like the other cards that aren't the leaders are kind of very specific moments of that character doing something. So I like that a lot better than this, where it's just like let's find Naruto here. Yeah, like Naruto is just a card in this game. 7 cost, 8 strength. He can attack, twice if you attack your opponent's health, and then every time he attacks, your chronometer goes down by 2, and you untap one of your cards. It's a very good card. It's fitting for him. It's just, I don't think it stands out all that much, especially when, like Sakura is just a one-off card that, doesn't even get to battle. It's frustrating. Similarly, another more recent card game would be the Transformers trading card game. And its unique thing is that it has big character cards. Its character cards are big. You choose a team of Transformers, and then your deck, it's not filled with characters, it's filled with weapons, upgrades, and then actions, which are one-time use cards. These are so much cooler because they're double-sided. Alt mode for Optimus, bot mode for Optimus. Each side has a different effect as part of the game, and then you have stuff like, here's Grenade Launcher as an upgrade for him, +4 attack, stuff like that. And then other cards will do stuff like, you can transform again this turn, or it adds temporary attack or something like that. That to me is so much more fitting, differentiating the cards, whereas even this game, when it tries to do that, there's not that much of a difference really between the extra deck cards and the standard cards, apart from the fact that all of the extra deck cards have this sort of haste symbol, so they can attack immediately. So yeah, that's a basic look at kind of what you get here. And again, it'll be the same lineup for the Boruto and Naruto Shippuden set, except of course you'll have characters from Boruto in there and different cards. So yeah, let's set up how this game works and how it plays, and we'll go through that. Okay, so let's go through game setup. So obviously what you do is you shuffle your main deck. Each player does that. They put it down in the deck zone. You also shuffle your extra deck each side and put it down in the extra deck zone, because you do have to draw those cards randomly as well when you get that ability. Then what you do is you take the top 5 cards of your deck and put them in the Guardian stack. These are going to be basically your health over the course of the game. So you put them there and your opponent does the same. So 5 and there. Then you actually draw 5 cards for your opening hand. So yeah, 5 for the opening hand, and the same over here. So that's the setup for the game, and then all you do is on the chronometer, you only have player 1 here, player 2 here. You put your marker on 0. I'm just using a euro coin. So that's how the game starts. You then find some way to determine who goes first, whatever you want to do, rock, paper, scissors, roll a dice, flip a coin. For the sake of this, we're just going to say, this is player 1 over here, this is player 2, this is the Shippuden deck, this is the part 1 Naruto deck, this player goes first. So, 5 cards in hand, draw a card at the start of your turn. This is what they have. So they have a 1 cost, 5 cost, 6 cost, 5 cost, 6, 4. So only cheap card here is Kabuto. So that's probably going to be the one you want to play here. And that's how it works, basically. Use the chronometer. This is how you pay for your characters. In that player 1 is over here. So when they spend cost, they move it closer to their opponent. That's how it works. So player 1 will go this way, player 2 will go that way. And the idea is that the higher cost card player 1 plays, the further into player 2's zone the coin is going to go. So when it comes around to the player 2's turn, they have all this to work with. And then when they go into the opponent's zone, that's when the turn switches back. Because that's how it works. The second you play a card and the coin moves into your opponent's zone onto the 1 or further, your turn ends. So what that means is the player going first is obviously going to just immediately play a card, end their turn. That's what they're going to do. So onto the battlefield goes Kabuto. He's a 1 cost, so the coin moves from 0 to 1 in player 2's side. Kabuto has an on summon effect. He costs 1, he's a strength 3, and he has an effect on summon. So you draw a card from your extra deck. He has that ability. So you just take one of the big cards and it goes into your hand. And then he also has your chosen opponent gets 1 into their Guardian stack. Now what that means is just that your opponent gets 1 extra health. So from the top of your opponent's deck, they just get a card straight into their Guardian stack. So you start the game with 5. This player is now up to 6. So that's the punishment in a way for getting such a good early ability. but the turn is over now. You can't attack. Most battlers, when they come into play, can't attack. They have summoning sickness. They can just be summoned and their effect goes off, and so the turn ends. Draw, and it's player 2's turn. So player 2 has these cards, a bunch of 3 cost, 4 cost, and 1 5 cost. So we got 2 Hinatas, a Tamari, a Gaara, 2 Gaaras actually, and a Rock Lee. So what we're going to do here is we are actually going to play Rock Lee. He's probably the best card in hand. Even though he's the most expensive, this is what we're going to play. So Rock Lee goes to the field. We pay 5 cost. So we're on 1, so we go 0. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it goes over to 4 in your opponent's zone. That means they're going to have much more cost to work with on their turn. They're potentially going to be able to play 2 cards in their next turn. But we've put the early most powerful card in play just now. So that's basically all we can do on our turn. We just summon our card, and that's it. Rock Lee's ability is only going to work when he attacks. Accidentally picked up the Guardian stack there for no reason. But anyway, so turn switches back over here. Draw a card, and they also have this big card in their hand as well. So they can't summon this yet because they need 7 cost worth of characters on the field to sacrifice to summon him. So let's see what they can do here. So to get most value, what they're going to want to do is they're going to want to play a 4 cost character. So 4 down to 0, Kisame comes onto the field. Now, because it's on 0, it's still their turn. They can actually play another card, but you want to attack first because your turn immediately ends when you put the chronometer into your opponent's zone. So we'll attack, then do that. So Kabuto is the only one who can attack because he was summoned last turn. And to attack, all you do is you tap, and we target. So you can choose to attack either one of your opponent's tapped battlers or their Guardian stack. In this case, there are no tapped battlers. Rock Lee was just summoned. He can't be attacked. So it has to be the Guardian stack. Now what happens here is it's 3 strength versus the strength of whatever I flip over here. So flip strength 1, it's Kiba. So that means he wins, this health goes away. But also Kiba does have a Guardian ability. That's when the Guardian ability kicks in. +1 chronometer. So what that means is that this does kind of immediately end their turn. This is actually a really cool way that the chronometer works, in that immediately the coin will go from 0 and it moves closer to player 2 because it's your card that's having the effect, and that will end this player's turn straight away. So even though we're down 1 health, again, he gave us that extra health, and then this ability has immediately ended his turn. So he was planning on playing another card, but he can't now. And that's the sort of back and forth, because some of the cards do have that moving the chronometer along. So if you go too close to the edge, you could get an effect like that. So it was either he plays 2 cards this turn but doesn't get to attack, or attacks and only gets to play the 1 card. So that was that sort of back and forth. But anyway, it's back on player 2's side. They draw, and they draw Zabuza, and they can go. So again, we don't have a lot to work with because they still only put it here. So again, we're going to have to wait until the end of turn to actually play our card, because anything else will immediately end our turn. So we're going to attack. So Rock Lee attacks. His effect goes off on attacking, and it's +1 chrono. So it moves +1 towards ours. And the effect that that's going to have is it means we can play sort of a higher cost card with the coin only going a little bit into their zone and not giving them too much to work with. And that's sort of the strategy of this game, of like, you don't want to just swing haymakers back and forth of like 10 cost, 10 cost. I'll play 20 worth of cards this turn. The game's going to end so quickly there. So you have to be a bit strategic early on, because some of the higher cost cards can take 2 or 3 health straight away at the start of a turn. So what we're going to do here is we are going to attack Kabuto. We're going to get rid of their ability to... sorry, I had the deck in the discard pile zone. But anyway, so Rock Lee wins. It was 5 strength versus 3. That's it. Very simple. And we can play a card now to end our turn. So what we're going to do is we are going to play... let's play Gaara. So we'll play Gaara here. Gaara's effect is when we summon him, we draw an extra deck card. So we draw Gamabunta into our hand, and he is a 4 cost. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it goes +2 on their side of things. And then also, Gaara has this other ability here. You can see the two swords crossed symbol there. That means when we summon him, we can choose to have him come into play tapped. And that ability also means that they have to attack a character who has that ability, who is tapped, before they can attack the Guardian stack. So it's kind of like a very defensive thing of like, they can choose not to attack Rock Lee, but if I choose to bring Gaara into play tapped, they have to go through him first to get to my Guardian Zone. So I'm actually going to choose to do that. I'm going to choose to put Gaara into play tapped to act as a sort of defensive kind of setup card, getting me my Gamabunta into my hand, my extra deck card, and do all of that. So we'll see how this goes. That ends our turn, and they start. So they draw Sasuke on their turn, very powerful card. And let's see what they're going to do. So they don't have too much to work with because all of their cards are fairly high cost. They can summon their extra deck card first, so they're going to have to attack first. So Kisame is going to attack. They have to attack Gaara. It's 3 versus 4. Gaara is taken out, but we've saved our health points. Then, what card are they going to play? Are they going to go big or not? That is the question. They're going to play Hidan. Hidan comes into play. His ability is that he has reinforcement, so if he's killed, he can summon a card from your hand, but also he gets draw a card, discard a card, so that's pretty good. So we'll draw a card and we'll get rid of Toby. Toby's ability is only going to be useful later on. We don't need him right now. And that was 5 cost. So 1, 2, 4, 5, 3. So we have a little bit more to work with on player 2's turn as the action switches over. So this is what we have here. So we drew Neji. So now I'm going to show you how to do an extra deck summon. So what we're going to do, obviously Rock Lee untaps as we go into our turn. And yeah, so immediately we're going to play Hinata. So we go from 3 to 0, so we can still play. Hinata, when she comes in, chosen battler gets +4 strength. So that will go onto Rock Lee. So Rock Lee is going to be attacking this turn as if he had 9 strength. Then what we're immediately going to do is we're going to sacrifice Hinata to summon Gamabunta. She has 3 cost. Gamabunta only requires 2 cost, so that will work. So we can summon Gamabunta by sacrificing Hinata. And then Gamabunta is going to be able to attack this turn because he has the foot or haste symbol. He also has the same effect Gaara had of the swords crossed, so he can kind of defend our zone, but we want to attack with him. Also, when he's summoned, we draw a card. So we draw another 10/10 there for that. And also, if he attacks their Guardian stack, he can attack again if he makes it through. So that's what we're going to do. So Rock Lee is going to attack Kisame to get him out of the way. So it's 9 versus 4, so he's taken out. Then Gamabunta is going to make his first attack against the Guardian stack. So it's 4 versus 4. Now, what happens here? Basically, if the Guardian is the same or higher than the attacker, the attacker gets destroyed, basically. Regardless of what happens, basically, if you attack the Guardian stack, the card that you attack still goes away. So your opponent always goes down 1 health. It's just if you're willing to sacrifice one of your attackers to make that happen. So this goes away, but since the strength matched, Gamabunta also goes away. So Gamabunta is out of action also. So that wasn't great. We could have got another attack, but I think we're still overall ahead on board because we started with 5, we went up to 6, we went down to 5. They're on 4, and we can still play a card here to end our turn. And we are going to play, we'll just play 10/10 here. 10/10 is the ability that will help us next turn. So 0 to 4, and then the turn switches over. And you can sort of see what's going on here, the way the game flows back and forth. It's okay, it's a little on the simple side, you know, just because there's not a huge card pool of cards like available in the game, so there's not that much that you can really do. And you can see here the problem here is like ultimately you sort of want to get your extra deck cards into play, But if you don't have cheap enough cards, it's very difficult to do that. So since they're only on 4, they can't summon a card and immediately go into Datara. So Datara is sort of out of action for this turn. So they're going to have to wait until after the attack to make something happen. So they're going to attack first. And again, here, it's 4, so they can't actually take out Rock Lee. So they're going to have to attack the Guardian stack. So Hidan attacks for 4 against the Guardian stack. And the defense is only 2. But here's an interesting thing, though. So Haku's going to go away. We're going to go down to 4 health regardless. But Guardian stack ability, +2 Chrono. What that means is we moved the time counter closer to us. So because it was player 2's effect, the counter moves closer to player 2. So 4 down to 2. That means they all have high cost cards in their hands. We're going to get more to work with next turn. So that's the power of that kind of chrono thing of like if you play too close to the middle and those chrono things happen, you can really kind of mess with your opponent. So either way, we're down 1 health there, and then it's time for them to play their card and end their turn. So they are going to play Hiruko here for 7. They're just going to go big. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So all the way over into 5 here. So player 2 is now going to have a good amount to work with here, which is interesting. So we draw, and we drew another Neji. So let's see what we can do here. So Rock Lee is going to untap. Tenten's now going to be able to attack this turn as well. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to use Tenten here to kind of get some advantage here. Because Tenten's ability is going to be this. When Tenten attacks, your next battler that you summon costs 2 less. Let me just check the instructions that means like attacks and attacks successfully. Yeah, whenever this battler attacks, the next battler you summon after this has its cost reduced. Cost reduced. Yeah, okay, so that's fine. So Tenten just has to attack, and regardless of what happens, we'll summon something better. So we're going to attack the Guardian stack for 3, and it's Sakura's. Now, because Sakura doesn't actually have a strength, that means the fight is automatically won on our side, but their ability still goes off. So any battler with less than or equal to 3 strength is destroyed. So they're going to activate that, targeting Tenten, but the effect will still go off for Tenten. So they've taken off a health. That ability is going to activate. So our next thing that we summon will cost 2 less. So what we're going to do here is we are going to summon Zabuza for 3 costs instead of 5. So 1, 2, 3, and we put him here. So that's pretty cool. And he has the ability, he has the +1 Guardian attack. He also has the leader ability like Tenten, but it's -3 this time. And then he also has this extra ability, which let me just look it up in the instructions. And that is can't attack battlers. This battler can't attack tapped enemy battlers. Only the opponent's Guardian stacks and Guardians on quests can attack. So that's that. So, you know, it means he's powerful, he's strong, but he can only attack their health. So I mentioned questing there. That's like the only other mechanic that there really is in the game. How does that work? How does the quest system work? Honestly, just with the way the game works, I don't find it to be the greatest mechanic. It's like an alternate win condition. Basically, the idea is if you get to 5 or more quest points, you also win the game. So at the same time, if you lose your Guardian stack, you also lose the game. This is just another way of doing that. How it works, I'll briefly show you it. I'll just have Rock Lee do it. It'll probably affect the way the game turns out, but I'll do it here just to show it off. So what you do is you take a card from your hand and you place it face down underneath Rock Lee. You also tap Rock Lee. And the idea is then, like, if I get through the turn with that card still underneath him, it becomes a quest point. And if I get 5 quest points, I win. So it's up to my opponent about, do they want to take out the questing ninjas or target my health or target battlers that aren't really doing anything. Now, this is your way for you basically to set up those Guardian abilities going off, which is quite interesting. So you can choose to do that. And that's what I'll do here. So I'll have Rock Lee go on a quest. I'll put Tamari face down because she has the +1 EX underneath Rock Lee. And I think that's how it works. So yeah, questing. How it works is this. To send a battler on a quest, tap it, and place any card from your hand face down on top of it. It acts like a guardian, except that it only guards the battler that you put it on. And yeah, it's going to work the same way. It's basically like an alternate stack here, except if I get through the turn, it's going to go over here. So that's pretty interesting. And then, yeah, at the beginning of your turn, discard all cards on your battlers and gain 1 quest point for each card discarded this way. So that's how it works. I believe you don't actually, you just put like a marker here to say that it's actually, there's a certain amount of quest points. So that's what we're going to do here. And then we can still play another card on our turn here. So we will play, another Gaara. And that will pretty much end our turn here. So 4 costs, so 1, 2, 3, 4. But we also get another EX card. So we get Sasuke Uchiha this time. Pretty cool. Sort of middle of the road in terms of our extra deck cards, but still quite good. And we can choose to also have him come in because he has that kind of sentinel ability. And that's what we'll do. So the way that that works again is that they have, before they can attack either Rock Lee or our Guardian stack, they have to go through Gaara. So we're protecting our quest point here by putting Gaara into play. Tapped like that using that ability. So really good card, Gaara, here on this side of the board. And it goes back to their turn. So Hidan untaps, we draw a card. And let's see what we can do this time. So this time we do actually have 7 worth of stats on the board. But do we necessarily want to use it all right now? And I don't think we do, because Deidara still only has the +1 Guardian ability. He has a little bit more going on, but I think we'll get better value out of just putting another card on the board rather than sacrificing stuff. So that's what we're going to do here. So we're going to put, we're actually going to play Sasuke here to just get some advantage here. So we'll play him at the end of the turn. First, we're going to do our attacking. So what we want to do is, so Hidan will go through Gaara. Hidan will attack Gaara to discard him. And we'll let the quest actually go ahead, because again, it is this alternate thing. And I've always felt like it's a little bit of a waste of time, just because you're never putting that many cards on the board that you're, I think, going to get that close to questing. And purposefully having cards not attack your opponent, I think, slows the game down in such a way where you're immediately going to go down in health. So I think kind of almost ignoring the quest system is kind of a way to go. Now, maybe the Boruto set, maybe the other deck works more with questing, but I found that it's kind of almost a waste of time, especially with these two decks, to do that. So Hiriko has the Guardian attack ability, so he's of course going to attack the Guardian stack. First card up here is Choji, who has Strength 5, so that's no problem, he will be defeated. But the ability is chosen battler gets tapped. So that's not going to help us much here, because everything basically is tapped. And we don't want to tap our Zabuza right now. So that ability is just going to sort of fizzle. So Choji gets defeated, and then the second Guardian attack comes in here. So this one gets blocked. Hiriko gets destroyed here, because Kakashi has Strength 12, no Guardian ability, but it's the max power that we can possibly have. So Hiriko gets destroyed here. But we still go down on health. And you can see here, we're only a couple of turns in, but we're already down to 2 health over here. And you can see that, like, this is kind of how quickly the game goes. And then that's why the quest system, I think, feels like a really just like long kind of running type thing. So so that's interesting. Now, so we're going to play Sasuke here on this side of the board. So 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's on 6, so we can do a lot this next turn, but Sasuke is a very powerful card. Because, you know, if we had managed to summon him properly, he does have the haste ability, but like, you have to have this much to work with to make that work, so interesting. But still, it goes back to this turn, and we go. So, what can we do here? So immediately, this is what happens over here. This gets discarded, I believe, we get 1 quest point, which I'll just mark with this coin. And again, when we get to 5 quest points, we win. So we can choose the quest again. We could send Zabuza and Rock Lee both on a quest, but what's going to happen next turn if we do that is they just ignore the questing. Sasuke will get to attack twice for 7. That'll probably go through. Hidan will probably get to attack. He'll probably get to attack with something else, and we'll lose because we only have 2 health left. So I think ignoring the quests going forward is going to be very helpful to us. But what we're going to do here is we're going to attack with Zabuza first because he has the leadership ability. That will reduce the cost of our next card by a good amount. And again, his ability says he can't attack battlers. So he has to attack the Guardian stack, but he has +1 Guardian attack. So this attack is going to come through. So it's Hidan, and that works. So that gets hit, but the +2 Chrono ability comes in. So it goes from 6 to 4. So we don't have as much to work with, but we get to attack again. 3, and then the Guardian ability here is draw a card, discard a card. So draw a card, and what card do they want to discard? Let's just get rid of Hiriko because we've used them already. And yeah, so, and you can see here they're down to just 1 Guardian stack as we go forward. And here's the thing, the game can end right now. If I just go Rock Lee attacks, and if this is 5, if this is like actually I think the game just ends here. Let me just check out the Guardian attack that it is just when you lose all of your battlers and stuff like that. Okay, it's when they're attacked with no Guardians left to protect them. Okay, so this will get rid of all the Guardians, but if we attack once more, then the game will come to an end. But let's watch what happens here. So we'll attack. So it's 8. So again, what happens is, regardless of what happens, this card still gets discarded. So draw a card, discard a card. So we'll just do Kakuzu. So that's what that effect is. Rock Lee does get defeated in all of this. So then what can we do with the cards in our hand? And here's where the game is going to end. So let's watch this. So we still have 4 Chrono to work with. So we'll summon Hinata to the field for 3. And we'll go down to 1 to put her on the field. And it's still our turn in all of this. Then, let me just check the rules on what I'm about to do here. Because here's what I'm planning to do. I have this extra deck card in my hand here. Sasuke Uchiha, who costs 6. And I'm wondering, is there a rule about can I not sacrifice a tapped card to summon him? Let me just check the ruling on this. Your battler's in play. Yeah, it doesn't mention anything about not being able to pay for them with tapped or untapped cards. So yeah, I think this is just a way to get advantage. So we'll pay 8 cost of sacrifice, but we do get Sasuke onto the field here, even though he's only a 6. But the thing is, it's still our turn. We can still play another card if we want to, but it would end our turn. So we're just going to use the fact that he has haste to attack. And then when we attack, Battler Chosen gets +3, so he goes up to +9 strength, and he just attacks. They have no Guardian stack there, so there's nothing defending them. The game is over. And that's the game. As far as I'm aware, I played everything there completely by the rules. I even slowed down this side of the board by having it go in a quest, when realistically I think it's such a slow mechanic, there's no point in even using it. I suppose what that showed was like they got overloaded on high power cards and didn't get many low power ones. And that's probably where the game was lost, in that you need the lower cost ones to summon the extra deck cards, which are the big game changers in all of this. But yeah, I find every game I've played of this doesn't tend to go on much longer than that. I think it's a combination of, one, the quest mechanic I feel just feels kind of useless with how quick it is to get strong power on the board. Like the amount of cards that have +1 Guardian attack or +2 Guardian attack in the case of Ninetales Fox. Like if we'd managed to get that out, like the game is suddenly on this countdown clock of 2 turns and it's going to end. Stuff like that. I feel almost what the game needs to do is probably you probably should start the game with more in your Guardian stack. That would be my way of kind of like making the game feel better, of like maybe having 7 or 8 in your Guardian stack. That would maybe make the quest points a little bit more usable, because you'd have time then to take a few hits to get your quest points going and get more cards on the board. Because you could see maybe towards the end there, the game, it was starting to get a bit more swingy on the coin going back and forth. Whereas at the very start, you're like, eh, eh, eh. And then only right at the end, you start to go into like 8 on your opponent's side, and then they can play like 3 cards, and it's 10 on the opponent's side, they can play 4 cards, and like you never get to a turn where like you can do I think what the dream is almost with this game, where like you're like, okay, I'll summon like 2 Negis to the field, you know, sacrifice them to put the Nine-Tailed Fox on the field. This ability activates, my chrono counter goes back this amount, I'll put this card into the field, summon Gamabunta, attack for 5. Like you don't get a chance to do those kind of combo things, because the game ends before I think it gets into a state where you're really getting stuff going. Like, Sasuke was their big move, but the game ended before they got a chance to do anything. And there was nothing that they could have done. In that, this deck, if I remember correctly, doesn't really have any cards with that Sentinel ability. And that is such a good defensive ability that I feel it's almost needed to succeed at certain points. Now, maybe it's just they didn't draw into some of their cards, but that's kind of just the way it plays out. So that's the way the game works. Like I said, there's a lot you can do with it, but it's completely, you know, up to you about how you view this game. It's certainly a card game system that I think works. There's nothing inherently, I think, like terrible about it. My issues, like I said in the first section of the video, would just be that it feels a little plain with regards to the Naruto aspect of it. It's just the characters, and it doesn't really feel like there are that many situations where like the ability sort of matches the character. It's just a bunch of card game mechanics, and it's kind of just has Naruto kind of theming over it. Whereas there are, I think, much more other games out there where it feels like it's more in line with the show. Like Dragon Ball Super, like the ability to basically like power up your character's attacks by like discarding cards from your hand to boost your power and stuff like that. The fact that the leader card is different than the rest of your battlers. I think stuff like that would have made this better, and I think it does suffer a little bit from being a card game system that just has the Naruto license sort of attached onto it, and it's not actually a Naruto card game on its own. I think there was a previous Naruto card game where it was more like that. I've never played it. I think I missed out on it completely, but that seemed to be much more in line with what I would kind of want out of a Naruto card game. But this is fine. I think this is fine. The fact that you don't have to buy booster packs and stuff like that means there's a certain funness to this, and that you're never going to have that situation of this person got all the good cards from their packs. They've built the best deck. I can't match that. There's at least a fairness to this because it's sort of curated in a way. You're not going to do too much deck building with this, and you can pretty much play it just straight out of the box. So that's fun. I definitely think the strength of this is the extra deck thing. I think that adds an actual combo type system to the game. Without the extra deck stuff, I think this game would kind of be bad, because I think it just is needed to sort of swing the game back and forth. Because say we hadn't defeated them on that turn by, you know, hitting them with our extra deck combo. If they'd been left with like 1 left, or the attack was still able to come in, they would have been able to put another card in the field, summon Deidara, and attack probably 4 times, because they would attack with Deidara and Sasuke, who both have the Guardian attack symbol. It's stuff like that. But yeah, I'm going to end the video there. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts are on this new Naruto Boruto trading card game. What are your thoughts on it? Do you like the mechanics? Do you like the theming? And so on. But yeah, that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.